Good evening and welcome back to 31 Horror Nights. It's October 27th and tonight's movie is Missing. This is I don't know if it's a direct sequel or like a spiritual successor or something, but there's definitely a connection they want to make between this movie and the film Searching, which was my favorite movie from 2020 Horror Nights. I gave it a 10 out of 10. I loved it. What I didn't know until like 2 minutes ago is that this is actually the third movie in this nebulous series of films. The second one, called Run, was released in 2020 and actually had the same director as the first movie. If I had known that, I definitely would have been watching that one instead of this one. Not that this one looks bad, it's just I'd rather do things in chronological order if I can. This movie is not directed by the same person who directed Searching or Run, but my favorite part about Searching was the story, and we got the same people working on the story for this movie, so I'm hopeful. Searching was a movie about a single dad whose daughter goes missing, and the entire thing is like a screen recording from his laptop, and he's trying to put the clues together and trying to solve this mystery. And aside from the wonderful story with some great twists and turns, the sort of screen recording format of the movie really made it feel like you were right there with him. You came to the same epiphanies as he did in real time. This new movie, Missing, which I mean is a fine title, but it doesn't have the same punch as Searching because Searching had the double entendre of being like searching for the daughter and searching as in using the internet, but whatever. In Missing, the roles have kind of been reversed because it is a daughter whose mom and I believe stepdad go on a vacation in Colombia, but they don't come back. And this is a pretty big case, but it's not even in the country. So she wants to try to figure things out, and she uses the internet. I'm not going to go into this hoping that it's going to be just as good as the first movie, but I am expecting it to be pretty good. I'm going to go check it out. I am extremely impressed with Missing. It is almost as good as the first movie. Not quite. It still is really, really good. And aside from Late Night with the Devil, is I think the best movie I've seen all month. I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10. It has great performances. It has great writing when it comes to like dialogue and speaking. It has a really good mystery. The story and delivery just isn't as immersive and perfectly executed as the first movie was. There were definitely a couple things in this movie that felt a little forced. The first movie had this mind blowing twist in it, and this movie tries to do that exact same thing at least twice, arguably more. That is the only real criticism I have for this film, and it is a sort of substantial one. That's basically the only thing keeping me from giving this a 10 out of 10. Otherwise, I'm just going to gush about this movie because I loved it. Our lead is a young woman named June. She's 18, and she's played by the actress Storm Reed. She did incredible with this performance. Just like with David from the first movie, the main thing that you get from them is that they're a relatively normal, nice person. They just don't have the best relationship with the family member that goes missing. And when that family member goes missing, they take it upon themselves to make it their life's mission to make things right. Though, while we're on the subject of comparing this to the first movie, the way that these two films connect is not really, I thought, something they even needed to add. They made it so that there's like a true crime documentary series, and like the season two, I believe, was based on the story from Searching. Like, that's how the movie starts. June is watching that. And it was kind of funny for them to show like a side by side between the actor who played David in the fake series and saying, this is the actor, and then showing a picture of John Cho and saying, and this is the real life David Kim. That show is brought up a couple times throughout the rest of the movie, but the story from Searching is never brought up again. So, again, it's not really a connection putting these two movies together as much as it is an Easter egg. There was one moment that I thought was genuinely very funny. There's a point where they need to start a new account on something and they do a CAPTCHA. It was one of those like, click every square in this with a bus. And I'm pretty sure everybody who has ever done one of these things has gone through this exact same thing. There was one square that had like a tiny little sliver of the bus, and you saw her mouse hover over that for a few seconds, deciding, do I actually click this one? The mystery in the first movie felt very natural. It felt like you were solving it right along with the main character, and there were epiphanies that you could have had right along with him if you were paying close enough attention. And this one, it's mostly like that, but there are so many twists that they added in. I don't want to spoil any of the plot, so I'll just say if you liked the first movie, I can't imagine why you wouldn't like this movie too. I don't think it's quite as good, but it's very close. It had that same sort of feel good ending as the first movie, and it was entertaining watching what seems like a rather simple scenario unfold into this twisted web. I would recommend it. And now I want to talk about some spoilers. Just like the first movie, this one starts out with like a montage of a loving family and then one of the family members dies. It's not dragged out into like the first 15 minutes of Up, basically, the way that the first movie did it, but it does have enough impact. The first phase of the mystery is okay, they never made it onto that flight. They are still in Colombia. And what June does is that she actually first hires and then like also like befriends, so he's kind of doing it for free, a worker like who does like online services errands for people and has him like look around and try to find some clues. The first suspect is the boyfriend that the mom went on this vacation with. But that lead actually dries up and they hit a dead end because the video is uncovered of them getting captured in a white van. So it seems like they're back at square one until we get first massive twist. All the pictures that were sent in by the boyfriend during this vacation did not have the mom in them at all. He actually hired an actress who looked like the mom and like didn't really show her face that much and staged the whole fake kidnapping as to serve as a red herring so that they were all looking in Colombia when in reality the mother never even made it to the airport. She was swapped out with the actor and we still don't know where the mother went. And then we get the second phase of the mystery. Okay, the mother is in the LA area and we got to find her here. And that's when some doubt starts getting raised because there's some references to her having a dark past that she doesn't tell anybody about. And people online start speculating that maybe she wasn't kidnapped. Maybe this was something that she either set up by herself or helped set up to disappear. And that is actually a really good bit of satire because of the way that it really does demonstrate how people who don't know all that much about the situation will openly speculate in kind of hurtful ways about people with like living relatives. June is having none of this, and there is a kind of forced moment where her buddy in Colombia, his name was Javier, when he dares to question that maybe there is something else going on here that we don't know about, she snaps at him and puts him down, which I guess is understandable, but it also just felt a little forced. And then we get the biggest twist of all. Because keep in mind, at this point, we had a staged vacation with a hired actor, a staged kidnapping with more actors who were in a different country, and one of the main characters got silenced because she knew too much in this movie. Like, this is some serious stuff. I was expecting this to be related to actually like a drug cartel or like the mafia or the Illuminati or something. But no, the real great criminal mastermind behind this whole operation was June's father, who wasn't actually dead. He was abusive towards the mom and also a drug addict. And it got to the point where they had to like physically separate them from each other. And this was at the point where June was young enough that she could just legally change her name, move to a different place, presumably cut herself off from the rest of the extended family, and just tell her daughter that her dad had died instead of getting arrested. And he met the fake boyfriend who went to prison for being a con man, and together they formulated this Amy Dunn level elaborate plan in order to, I don't know, kill the mother. And his motivation is that he's just mentally unwell and basically gaslit himself into believing that the mother was the bad guy the whole time. This is the twist that felt kind of out of pocket. And this movie also tried to replicate that moment of like aha from the first movie where it was she would die of dehydration by now. No, because it rained a few days ago. And this one, it's her saying to her mother, who is about to die from a gunshot wound, please don't die. I promise I'll be more appreciative of you. And she mentions Siri, and then she realizes this room is being recorded by a security camera that is currently broadcasting to her open laptop, and her phone is right there. So she just remotely uses Siri to call the police. Which, while it was certainly serviceable, it wasn't as good as that one moment from the first movie. I have been a little critical of the mystery, but that's only because the first movie set such a high standard. If this was just on its own, I probably wouldn't even bring that stuff up because when you compare it to everything that the movie does right, it really doesn't feel that significant. But it does sort of raise a comparison between the first movie. It tries to invoke the first movie. But when you look at the whole thing, Missing was probably the best sequel that we could have realistically hoped for. And it was one of my favorite movies of the month. Okay, thank you for listening. I'll see you tomorrow.